If you're wondering if you're on the right path in life, this video is for you. I'm going to share the story of a client named Julia who came to me a few years ago because she was miserable in her job and she wanted guidance on what to do. I'm also going to share 3 signs that you may very well be on a path that either is no longer aligned with who you truly are, or maybe the path never was aligned with who you truly are. Before we dive into the content, however, I want to share this. If you feel like a failure in life, if you feel like you've messed up, you just can't seem to get a handle on your life, if you feel like everyone else seems to know what to do and they're excelling, I want you to give yourself some grace. The vast majority of clients that I work with, some of whom are in their 50s and 60s, come to me because they want to figure out, what is it that I'm meant to do with my life? What is my purpose? And they ask me, like, is something wrong? Should I have had my life figured out by now? And I said, no, everyone has a different timeline. And then I tell these clients, it takes tremendous courage to look at yourself, especially look within, and really uncover your truth. There are some people who may never look within, and they lead a life that is superficial. It may feel spiritually void. So if you are someone who's up for the challenge and you really want more meaning and purpose in your life, stay tuned and watch until the end. With that being said, let's get started with Julia. She was a client who came to me a number of years ago. She showed up for our first session together. Her energy was heavy. She had her head down. She just seemed defeated. And she told me that she was an attorney. She didn't hold back. And so I asked Julia, I said, did you have a dream of becoming an attorney? I said, what made you go to law school? And Julia said, my grandfather and my father were the ones who told me I was going to law school. They were both attorneys, and Julia had a tremendous amount of pressure on herself to follow in the footsteps of her grandfather and her father. Can anyone relate to Julia's story? Julia did not want to go to law school. She didn't. However, she obeyed, went to law school. Year 2, she wanted to drop out. She was really unhappy. Her father said, don't worry, Julia. You'll love practicing law, because he loved practicing law. He was projecting on to Julia. Also, he was paying the bills for law school. And so he was heavily invested in Julia's success. He really wanted his daughter to become an attorney. Somehow Julia plowed through, graduated, and joined a big law firm. It was not a good situation. She felt tremendous pressure due to billable hours. For anyone who has experience working in a law firm, I don't personally, but I tend to work with a lot of attorneys who are like, I'm not sure this is the right path. Also, Julia was working really long hours as well. And she thought, well, maybe a big law firm is not for me. And so she made a change and joined a small law firm. Interestingly enough, or not so interestingly enough, Julia's anxiety and her depression skyrocketed. And what Julia told me is, she said, even before I accepted the offer, there was something inside me that was telling me, like, this isn't right. But she ignored the message, and she thought, well, I'll try to make it work. She had invested so much of her life up at that point preparing to become an attorney. And Julia's like, I just don't know what to do. Should I try another law firm? I'm like, I'm not sure if that's the answer. That's what I'm thinking inside. And I said, Julia, bear with me and take this or leave it but for some reason, I see you making greeting cards. I'm like, there is so much creativity in you. And I'm like, gosh, I don't know where this is coming from. And Julia looked at me crazy at first, but then the truth came out. And Julia said, actually, you're right on. I originally wanted to go to art school. I love creating art. She's like, my dream is to become an artist. However, the message that I received in my family is that art was not practical, that art wouldn't pay the bills, that art wasn't what I was meant to do. Again, anyone can relate to pressure from the family or even broader society. And so Julia followed the path that was laid out for her by her family. And it was interesting because as we worked together, Julia really had to look at fear of like, well, what would it mean to honor her dream of becoming an artist? So we outlined 3 different options of, okay, stay at her law firm and create art on the side. And unfortunately, Julia's anxiety and depression was really bad that she wasn't sure she could function at work. Second path was to leave law altogether and attend art school. That really lit Julia up. And third path was just to take some time off and decompress and figure out what was next. Julia selected the third option. Fast forward 6 months later, Julia showed up and she was full of life. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, what happened to this defeated person, low energy? What happened? Well, Julia she honored her truth. She started expressing her creativity. And Julia told me she had never felt so much peace in her life. She had never felt so much joy. And she felt like this was what she was meant to do. As a result, she created a website and started showcasing her art. She set up an Etsy shop. She posted on Instagram. It was like there was this explosion. And what she realized is she was suppressing all this energy that was just waiting to come out. Not surprising. Her anxiety, her depression started to lift month after month as she created her art. I wanted to share this story because, first of all, many of you could potentially relate, whether or not you are an attorney. But I think there is this pressure often to conform and to pursue something in life that may not at all be what's best for us. And so I want to share these 3 signs that you can tune into to determine, are you really on the right path? First sign is you're rationalizing your no's and you're trying to turn them into yeses. If we use Julia as an example, we see right here, go to law school. No, she wanted to go to art school. Next, stay in law school. No, she wanted to drop out. She did not like it. Third, practice law. No, she wanted to quit. But through each decision, she rationalized the no's and she told herself, well, maybe my dad knows best, and maybe I will like law once I finish law school. Maybe a smaller law firm will be better than a large law firm. We have all likely been guilty of this before. I know I have. Let's not judge ourselves harshly. I think, though, at some point we really have to start honoring what is a hell yes for my life. And I want to share an interesting quote from Martha Beck. She is a very well-known life coach. She wrote for Oprah magazine, author of many best-selling books, and I really think she is a leading expert on purpose. She wrote the book, Finding Your North Star. Highly recommend this book. And in it, Martha Beck talks about the essential self, which is essentially your true self. And Martha Beck said that your essential self will lead you towards freedom and away from imprisonment. Again, going back to Julia, there was a lot of imprisonment, a lot of no, a lot of contraction. And so think about, what would freedom mean for you? Like, as you're considering a decision, when do you feel expansive? Like, oh, there's this relief like Julia felt when she thought about creating art. Second sign that you may be on the wrong path in life, you are finding your body is rebelling. I'm a firm believer that the body does not lie. You think about, for example, when you eat a huge bowl of ice cream and realize like, oh, dairy does not sit well, I'm dealing with gut rot. Or you eat like a huge greasy hamburger and you feel sick. It's such a sign from the body. Like, there's certain foods that do not sit well with our systems. And also, when it comes to any aspect of our life, we can tune into our body and we can understand what is going on. Like, why are we experiencing these symptoms? Our body is trying to tell us something. As an example, a number of years ago, a friend was experiencing chronic neck pain. She went to the doctor and the doctor said, you need to have surgery. That's the only way, you'll relieve this neck pain. And my friend, who is rather headstrong, looked at the doctor and said, I need to address the call of my soul first. And I'm like, oh gosh, I wonder what that doctor thought. What happened is my friend realized she was in a job that literally was like a pain in her neck. It was causing her so much stress. It was not a job that was really aligned with her natural strengths and superpowers. And once she pivoted to a completely different role that really spoke more to her heart and what she loved to do and what she was naturally good at, her neck pain started to resolve. I'm someone who believes strongly in science. I'm so grateful for doctors. I'm an evangelist for facts. And I also believe that our intuition will help guide us in life. I can't tell you how many stories I've heard from clients or friends who have told me about these physical symptoms that they've experienced. And once they make a change, and again, they're really honoring the path they're meant to be on, they find that these symptoms can often disappear. Poof. So the third sign that you may be on the wrong path is you are betraying yourself. In an interview that Oprah did with one of my favorite spiritual teachers, Carolyn Myss, Oprah asked Carolyn, how do you know if you're on the right path? And Carolyn Myss said, you are no longer betraying yourself. She said, when you're on the wrong path, you experience this low energy. It's like this psychic drain of your spirit. And she said, you're not honoring your heart. You're having to compromise who you are. So think about where in your life, it could be your career, it could be a relationship, where you're feeling like you have to twist and contort and be someone you're not in order to fit in order to excel. You could be in a situation where, for example, your values do not align to the values of the organization you work for. that will absolutely take a toll on you over time. And so the more honest that you can be with yourself, the more you will experience this liberation. Trust me. Trust me on this. It's taken me a long time to get here, and I still have work to do. I would have to say, like, that's what I found to be true for myself, as well as many clients that I work with as well. I want to end with this. If the video resonates with you, you could relate to Julia's story, these 3 signs like made you nod your head and say, oh my, I have some work to do. Like, again, you are not alone whatsoever. I admire anyone at all who's like, I'm just gonna take a peek into my soul and see what it has to tell me. I mean, I have conversations regularly where it's like my friends and I or colleagues, like, this is not easy work. It's like, no wonder people are like, I'm just going to do some spiritual bypassing. If you are interested in starting, I recommend journaling, even if it's for 5 minutes a day, and just notice what comes up. If you're sitting there looking at your journal, wondering, what in the hell am I supposed to write? Start processing your day. Think about interactions with people. Notice when your spirit was soaring versus when you feel completely drained and you just want to, fall into the ground and never get up. Also, really think about any messages that are coming to you. Like, maybe you should take this class, or maybe you should reach out to this person, or maybe it's time for a career change. Because I find, like, if you can journal and just completely allow yourself to be uninhibited, like if you need to use certain words you normally don't share, if you want to draw pictures, no one's going to read your journal. Just hide it, right? Just let yourself write freely. It's very interesting what comes up. And then next, I recommend taking small steps towards your larger dream or what you may think your purpose in life, could be. Because I find that there's a combination of this internal reflection as well as outward action. Like, you can sit all day and do your navel gazing and fill up multiple journals, but if you aren't out in the world and trying things, like, you won't have that data that's telling you, like, ooh, you are hot, like, this is it. Or, ooh, this is warm, you're getting closer, not quite right. Or, like, this is cold, you need to, like, run the other way. This is not what you're meant to do. That's really important for sure. And then finally, I just want to emphasize this piece around, like, being gentle with yourself. I know it sounds like, soft and fuzzy, but I think it is important as you're going through life and you're trying to navigate, especially this very complex world that's on fire, just to be gentle and understand if you fall on your face, well, damn, at least you tried, right? I think it's really important. Just put yourself out there, experiment, analyze your data, see what comes up. And over time, I have faith that you will step more and more into who you truly are. Thank you so much for watching. I'm really grateful to have you with me, and I hope that this video will provide some clarity on next steps in your broader life or your career. Take care. Bye-bye.